matter how big the monthly revenue goes, I still sometimes am like, I'm doing this, like this is me. Because I think also the thing that I pride myself on the most of everything is self-awareness and being like, I know exactly where I stand in the world. I know how many way bigger fish there are, right? I know that I've only been doing this 2 years. So yes, I did something cool and rare where I was able to escape corporate and build a business and get investment and do the things. But I'm not like ultra high net worth yet, right? Like I'm building something that's scaling. So it's like a very weird in between. We talked about Hormozy. Hormozy calls it like the lonely middle. Like I'm in that weird lonely middle where like my friends, I love them to death, but like they don't get what I'm doing. And then like my friends that are advisors that are doing this, that their brands do multiple millions a month. I don't do that yet. I'm not at their level yet. So I'm in this like weird in between where I'm scaling, I'm doing the thing, but I'm still kind of regulating and understanding where I fall in all of it.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Going Beyond the Deal podcast. Today we have TJ Bongiorno, the CEO and founder of Ramp Health. We're going to talk about what does it take to start a business? What happens when you have that itch inside to go off and do something entrepreneurial on your own and leave with the safety of a comfortable W-2 job to go out there and try something new on your own? We're going to get into Ramp Health and their products around the nootropic space. If you never knew anything about nootropics, this is going to be a good way for you to start understanding the power of how they can assist you in being more productive on your, your daily journey. So really looking forward to you joining us for this discussion, whether you're an entrepreneur or professional looking to kind of do something on their own, or you're looking for some new hacks to be able to make your life more productive. This is the show for you. Welcome to Going Beyond the Deal. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Going Beyond the Deal podcast. Today, I have my friend TJ Bongiorno on the call, founder of Ramp Health and Arenza. We met through a good friend of mine, Bobby Massia. I happened to just for some reason, I was drawn to showing up for literally like 20 minutes to this event that Bobby was throwing. And I had a feeling that there was a reason why I needed to go there. And as soon as I walk in, I see this, stud of a man, jacked, looking fit, looking confident. And we instantly were drawn to each other. And then turns out we have a lot more loves that we share outside of just, networking and spending time with a bunch of people shaking hands. So TJ, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me. And yeah, it's crazy how that happens, right? Like you just, I don't know, as the kids say, aura. Like the aura was just there. We instantly were like, are we friends? Yeah.
Yeah. I think we just became best friends.
Yeah.
This is awesome. This is awesome. For the listeners, this is probably one of the episodes that I'm probably most excited about. People hear me talk about finding alignment in things that I really enjoy personally. And then how does that become my kind of professional output? So as I was sharing with TJ, I've had the opportunity to start working with founders of businesses like Ramp Health. And this is the stuff that excites me personally because it's the stuff that I read about. It's the stuff that I research about. And I actually get to talk about shit that I enjoy, not just, stuff that makes me money. So very cool to have you here.
Yeah, man, it's great to be here. And we're in a really interesting time because there's so much information, right? But there's also such a disparity between the information because we're all in our little echo chambers. So it's always cool to have conversations like this where we're going to probably cross around a bunch. So maybe folks that are more business listeners will get a little nootropic understanding and vice versa. So I'm really excited about it too.
Yeah. And then also, the other part of it too, which is very, very interesting that, you said is like, you've been a sales engineer by trade. Like that was what your, foundational skill set was. So you understand how to, number one, sell, but then sell online and grow a business online, which is, as we all know, that's where you do most of your buying, these days, right? And it's funny, I'll tell you, TJ, you're obviously doing something right because as soon as we had the conversation, as soon as I looked up your, the company online to try to, you're sending me some samples, but I was going to maybe I'll order something. Now, all of a sudden, all of my feeds on social are just getting smacked in the face by Ramp Health. So you're doing something right, my man.
Zuckerberg takes a lot of my money.
Yes,
on
I
a
can
daily
imagine
basis
so.
to,
I can
to
imagine
make
so.
that happen. Yeah, that's funny though, and it's crazy too because I guess we'll just jump into it really quickly. Like I had to explain to you and mention to you when we were first talking that we test a lot of different creatives and stuff, and it's always interesting that like my mother, my aunts, my friends, like they get bombarded with it too, and they see all the different things we're trying. It's a really funny experience.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I know we both are big fans of like the Hormozis of the world and the Vaynerchuk's of the world, right? That are really big on like, okay, how are you testing your creative to like what's going to make you watch further? What's going to make you click? What's going to make you do that? But I think the one big thing about your particular products is getting a better understanding of what they do and how applicable they are to basically anybody, right? That is a high performing person, right? And that's who we talk to on the show is just high performing CEOs, executives, and professionals. So it makes a lot of sense. But to start, man, let's go back to the beginning. Kind of where'd you go to college? How did you get this entrepreneurial spirit? I have a funny feeling you probably like were mowing lawns at like 7 or selling newspapers or something. What was the deal?
Actually, my typical entrepreneurial thing was I used to sell fake Air Force Ones. Everyone knew they were fake, so I wasn't
What were they?
like Air Force One sneakers. Like I would get knockoffs like in Queens in like some deep store where like they were getting them from China most likely. And then like everyone that I was selling them to knew that they were knockoffs, right? I wasn't trying to scam people. You're getting Air Force Ones for $50, but that was like my first like, okay, I can pay 25, then I could get $50. Like here's my first arbitrage. And then funny enough, like I had a bunch of different little things like that. Like I tried some blogs and things, but I spent like 10 years as an entrepreneur of just like consuming all the content, reading the books, mapping out ideas and not doing anything. Before I go through that, you asked the question. So I went to Monmouth University. I actually studied criminal justice, and for all those listening, I think this is like typical. I had like a 2.7 GPA. I was always a smart kid, like I had a high SAT and all that, but I'm ADD as hell, man. That's how this nootropic thing came in. So I didn't go to class, I didn't whatever. I came out of school. I was actually a mortgage loan officer. I slung mortgages for like 3 years. I did.
What year was that?
I graduated in 13, and this is like end of 14 was when I became a mortgage loan officer.
Okay, so you weren't part of the whole, when it like 08, 07, 08, where if you could sell ice cream, you could sell a mortgage, man.
But I worked with those guys.
You worked with those guys.
And they
Dude,
would
I
like,
work with those guys too, man.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I remember, I'll never forget this. Like I started my career same kind of way, right? I got picked up at Starbucks. I was making drinks at Starbucks and somebody's like, you make drinks like you make $1 million a year. And I was like, yeah, well, if you're going to do anything, do it right. And he goes, well, I have a mortgage company. You want to come work for me? And bro, this guy was driving like, he had a Ferrari. He had the nice watch. And I'm like, it's that easy?
It was at one point.
It was at that one point,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Like these guys were throwing 50, 100K months of like in their pocket in my face. And I was like, oh, I can do that. Didn't turn out like that. Turns out it was a lot harder to do after. But anyway, so after like 2.5, almost 3 years of that, I actually went to one of those coding boot camps. So I don't know if you've ever heard of them. They're like these intensive, like 3-4 month programs that are like, they're around at the time, they were like 13 to 15 grand. And like you just go every single day for 3 to 4 months and learn how to code, like from zero knowledge to basically a basic proficiency. And that's how I ended up getting into tech. And then you had mentioned already that I was a sales engineer. So from there, I turned that into like an 8 or a 9 year career in tech. And then finally, last Thanksgiving was when I had built up the brands enough to quit and end that. And now I'm just full time entrepreneur.
So now you are full. So, because you had mentioned this to me, you had done this as a kind of side hustle until you were proficient enough financially to be able to make this your full-time gig. And we should also mention, by the way, you're going to hear TJ talk. He sounds like he probably works 24 hours a day, doesn't sleep 7 days a week. But let's be clear, married and father.
Yes, I have a 19-month-old toddler as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're in the thick of it right now with being a parent, and you obviously, it's important to you too, right? So you are grinding kind of both, as hard as possible, burning the candle at both ends. and then you got it to actually be successful. That's amazing.
Yeah, let me. I like to clarify and give timelines too. I don't want any like disingenuous thoughts or like whatever.
Of course, of
timeline
course.
for everybody, right? October of 22, I had the idea. So that was like, okay, I'm going to start a supplement brand, right? had been experimenting. We can get into like the whole how I came up with the idea in a bit. Had been experimenting. December of 22 is when I had my LLC is officially filed. From that time period, I was cold calling all kinds of manufacturers to see if I could get this made. And then by like the end of January, I had a contract in place. I started a pre-sale in April of 23 to see if anybody actually wanted to buy my stuff before I sent a whole bunch of money to a manufacturer. And then from April to July was that entire pre-sale. I actually sold $12,000 worth of product in that time, right?
Which is like, from April to July, you did the pre-sale. Now, just so that people understand, because I love this, how you have an idea, you test the market, right? That's a big key here in the online sales space. Test the market, and then you make the decision. Okay, whether is this a shit idea or is this like a brilliant idea? How long would it take you to fulfill those products? So you found a manufacturer, you knew what it was going to cost you to provide product. You tested the market for what? April, May, June, July. So 4 months.
Yeah, about that.
3-4 months. And then how long would you be able to deliver? Like, how long would it take you to deliver the product from when somebody raises their hand and says, yes, please, I'm interested, to being able to get that on their doorstep?
So because of the way I framed it, I actually did it as a pre-sale. So the button said pre-sale and it was like for a discount, which I actually, now knowing what I know, would not advise somebody to do that. I'll give the whole strategy right there of how I would test now from what I know. But I did it as a pre-sale, and Mike, I sent a lot of emails. I was like, "It's coming, I promise." Like this is a pre-sale. We're expecting it early July, and actually, like today, 2 years ago, was when the first orders landed in people's mailboxes. It's so weird, the timing that we're having this conversation. Like literally July 20 something of 2023 was when the first orders of Ramp landed in somebody's mailbox.
Amazing. Okay. Very, very cool.
Let's take that quick side note and let's talk about that pre-test, because I think it's really important if anybody wants.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about that.
So the way that I would set this up now is, first and foremost, like just Shopify is like $1 a month for the first 3 months, right? So you're going to use Shopify as a platform. You can use whatever you want, but I mean, like Shopify is the best. It makes it the easiest. That's what I would do. And then now that AI is so easy to like generate mock-ups and images, I would literally just like set up that Shopify store as if you had product right now, right? So you're just like using AI to generate your mock-ups, have the whole thing ready on a website, and set it up, the products, as if you have, a little bit in stock or whatever, and then make a Facebook ad account and make some basic ads. All of this, you don't have to have any experience, right? Like you can YouTube and ChatGPT your way through this entire process. So like at a bare minimum, we have Shopify, we have a bank account, potentially, we don't even need that, and just using AI to set up the images. And I would run some traffic, $25 a day, $50 a day with some very basic image ads. You don't even need videos. Just like seeing if anybody's actually going to click this, right? So let's make up a product. You do a bunch of like endurance sports, right? Let's just say you and I are making an endurance energy drink. It's got carbs in it in addition to energy, something like super. I would run traffic on Facebook, I wouldn't even do any targeting. Let Facebook figure it out. We would have very basic things like getting tired on your runs. Click here to find out more. We'd have a very basic landing page with just some information on it. And we would look at how many add to carts we got, because it's going to be out of stock on the website. But if somebody clicked and then came and went to add to cart, you can usually factor about 50% of people that add to cart check out. So if you and I were testing this, we spent $1,000 on ads, because this is Mike and TJ's company, and we got 100 add to carts. We would say that we would get maybe 50 sales. If we were selling this at $40 a pack, we would break even. All right, maybe we have something. It's worth pursuing. Maybe we could look into it. But if we got 10 add to carts and we're only going to sell 5 after spending $1,000, maybe we need to go back to the drawing board, look at the copy, whatever. But in the most basic way, that's what I would do. The other option that you have right now, which is, again, relatively new, but really exciting for people, you could just make TikToks with a mock-up of it. Like you could just get a can made that looks like the product and explain what it is. and just start making TikToks about it and the journey. And people love that. They love like, oh, I'm in my room. I just worked 8 hours. Now I'm like working on my dream on the side and making videos and recording the whole thing. Those are two separate or can be done together of how I would test a man now and knowing what I know.
Very cool. Very cool. So let's get into it because I want people to really have an understanding of this. You know, what led you to become interested in I always say this like nootropics?
Nootropics.
Nootropics.
You think I wasn't my New York accent ass wasn't going
nootropics or whatever.
Yeah.
So let's just explain nootropics, to a 5-year-old. And I always say to people, you ever see the movie Limitless with Bradley Cooper? Like that's the best way I could explain it to somebody. But I know you as a professional with a very, very successful brand now can explain it better. So go ahead.
So the simplest phrase that we could possibly use is smart drugs, right? Like that's like the easiest
smart drugs. Okay.
That's the easiest way you can describe them. But if we're going to get like more technical, you're just talking about things that are working on different pathways, right? So the same way that, like, for example, in my product, I was looking if I had any right in arm's reach. In my product is something called Aroxalin A, and it comes from Aroxalin indicum extract. It's a focus agent that actually works on the same part of the brain that Adderall targets for ADHD, but it doesn't have any of the meth or the other stuff.
The stimulants in it. Yep.
Stimulants in it or any of that.
And for people that don't understand that, right? A lot of college kids these days, right? Even when TJ and I were in college, it was like, oh shit, I haven't worked on my 20-page paper. I got to do pedal to the metal right now, and coffee ain't going to cut it. People are taking a drug for people that typically have attention deficit disorder, and they're taking it because it makes them more focused and it gives them that amphetamine feeling to keep them awake and more focused. So just to put that out there for everybody.
I was one of those people that took that in college from a friend, and I was like, oh, I just feel normal. Maybe I have to think that it's for.
Just go to a doctor, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe I should get this. But yeah, so like at the end of the day, the ingredients that we're choosing and the products that we're making are meant to work on the brain in like the simplest form. So in terms of like how this idea came up and how I got into this, I most definitely am diagnosed ADHD, and like I feel like people make it like, oh, woe's me. Like I walk into a room, sometimes I can't remember what I walked in the room for, but at the same time I can hyperfixate on something for 9 hours if I'm interested by it, right? It's just like a different way of going about things. I think it's more of a temperament, to be quite honest, but we don't have to get into that.
So what's the biggest, so what would be the biggest challenge for you who's now been, I guess, clinically diagnosed as ADHD? Like, what is the big problem for you? Is it literally walking into a room and not remembering something? Is it staying on track with stuff? Is it following through?
No, the hardest thing for me by far is like if I view something as like boring, it's like physically painful for me to do it. Like certain operations things or certain like monotonous things, like for example, tracking finances, right? I had to automate everything because like I can't do an Excel spreadsheet. I'll like poke my eyes out.
Yeah.
We talk on a podcast for 7 hours, but if you ask me to like track and color code in Excel, it's not happening. So like it's just that's probably like my own big struggle with it. But anyway, trying to offset that and be able to build this thing in the way that I have, I was experimenting with these nootropics. So I found that the combination, and I think you actually mentioned that you had tried some of these, of L-theanine and Suboxone was what.
It's funny, right? I don't know. Like, did we do this on purpose? Like,
yeah. That's awesome.
So I mean, that's my own personal kind of stack with caffeine, and I'm lasered in.
100%. So Aroxalin A is the active ingredient in Suboxone. Suboxone is 10% Aroxalin A, and we have just like the pure form of that in my product. Also, for those listening, what might just held up, that the little blue bottle with the white cap is Nootropics Depot. That's where it's from. That lab is like the best lab in America. Like they are the highest quality of everything. If you're gonna, I'm not sponsored by them. I have no affiliation. Just like they do really good stuff. If you're gonna try some of this, that's a good place to go to. But anyway, that combo that Mike was just showing, I was taking 2 and it worked for me. I could do 6 hours of work straight, just sitting at my computer. And I was like, you know what? This would be really good before a wedding too, to calm the monkey mind. Like this would be really good before a happy hour or like a social event where I'm like there's a lot of stimulus. So I ended up like speaking to, funny enough, a biohacker guy that I knew from the internet, just like Twitter. I had followed him for a long time, and I hit him up and I paid him for a consultation. I was like, hey, we drink because we want to take the edge off, right? We want to like more inhibitions. We want to be more comfortable. I think this combo would help with the focus aspect and feeling good and like calming the mind. But how can we like calm anxiety and give a little boost too? And one thing led to another. We came up with the formula. And what we have in B4 is that combination of a mild stimulant, a bunch of nootropics for focus, and then 3, I don't want to say anti-anxiety because we can't make that claim, but helping with anxiety and helping calming ingredients. And the combination is kind of like, I like to describe it as waking up from a good nap. Like you feel calm, like in the moment.
Absolutely. I think for me, what it comes down to is when I'm locked in, I can speak well. I can pull things quickly from my head. And for me, it's not like I'm ever anxious to get up in front of anybody and speak. But with this little bit of extra, I don't know. It's just like, I feel like it takes me from like just regular to 4K or 8K or whatever it is. Like that's what it is. And it's noticeable enough that it's like, okay, I should keep doing this then.
Yeah, man, 100%. And like you and I are both real seasoned at this. Sales, we've gone to so many of these social events and things that like we're good at just being at these events. But something that I notice is that like I wear an Oura ring. I used to wear a Whoop. I think you wear a Whoop.
I'm a Whooper. Yep.
You're a Whooper. My heart rate would be like average over 100 when I would leave something. Like my activity tracker would think I was at an activity because like you're in the moment and like you're hyped up. Yeah, exterior, I'm calm, but like internally, when I take a nootropic or something, it's like 80s. So like I notice a difference in just that alone because I'm just less racing in the head, which is interesting.
Yeah, no, that's really, really, I think you put it in a really, really good way. So, I mean, for you personally, as like a high performing guy, obviously running a nootropics company, but like, how would you, I mean, I can say how I use it, right? But I mean, how do you use nootropics in your daily life? And how would you recommend, other professionals that have never really kind of gone down this rabbit hole before, but is looking to kind of create a little bit of an edge? How do you use it, and how would you recommend others to use it?
I have 2 ways that I'm going to talk about this. We'll talk about
Please, let's do both.
first, and then we'll get a little like gray hat too. So first and foremost, I think that they just need to be viewed as a tool, right? This doesn't become a thing that you become dependent on because like Subroxy, for example, the one that we're talking about, you get not dependent. You will build up a tolerance to it, right? Like you're taking 200 milligrams, you'll need 300 and 400 and 500. Take it every day. So like 2 to 3 days a week max is the first bit of like how I try to make sure that I use them. And again, this is even my own product. I have on the label suggested use 2 to 3 times a week because we don't want to be disingenuous, right? I don't want you to get like dependent on it.
You stand behind it and you use it the way that you tell people to use it the way you use it, right? Which is amazing.
Yeah. And then second of all, like because I kind of control the schedule, I usually will use it on a day when I have no meetings, where I'm just like, it's me alone in the office. Just like I have to
deep work.
My 4 or 5 hour block in the morning. Like I need to bang out a week's worth of someone else's work in this time. Let's crush some nootropics, throw some music on, and like get all that stuff done. That's like my main use case. And then for my own product, I was on it before I met you at that event, and like, or I'm on it right now for this. So like for times when there's like a social aspect, I will take my own product as well.
Very cool. Very cool. So that's how you use it. So I mean, how would you recommend somebody kind of that wants to like kind of start this out? Like what would you recommend? I mean, obviously, Ramp Health,
I don't even want to. If so you're interested, you can check out my website. But I don't want. We're not here to shill, right?
No, I'm just saying. But I mean, would that be a good trial for someone that wants to experience the benefits of it instead of being like Michael Fischer, who through experimentation research came up with his own stack that works? Is your product something that would be a nice thing to try to start with?
They'll feel it. Anyone, unless you like. I don't mean this in an offensive way, but unless you fried your receptors, like you will feel my product. But I think actually the simplest thing for someone to do is 400 milligrams of L-theanine with caffeine. I think that's like the simplest way because we both know, right? L-theanine just smooths out the caffeine and the stimulants. Like I think they call it like meditation in a bottle, like 200 to 400 milligrams of L-theanine if you've never taken it with your normal caffeine, or maybe like you add in an extra caffeine beverage that day is like the best way to start. And then if you wanted to go a little further, 200 to 500 milligrams of Subroxy, like was is the normal recommended amount. I think that combination is the best way for someone to start. And that, like, as you know, right, it unlocks the rabbit hole, and then you go down and you're reading Reddit threads and all this stuff, and you can do your own journey. But I think that's like a really safe place for someone to start.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, the biggest thing and that I would just tell people is, you know, the best way to get better is to start kind of taking an audit of what you're doing compared to what your output is, right? So, what I would say is kind of write down the way you feel prior to going into a 4 or 5 hour work block where you got to crush that big project. Write down how you feel doing that without it, right? And then take it, try it, and see how much easier it was. And success leaves clues, right? Like that's the kind of stuff. I think I might have told you this. I stopped, well, not a couple weeks ago, earlier in the year. I didn't cold plunge for a couple days just because like I had to clean my cold plunge out. And I'm a 3 minute a day, 45-degree kind of guy. And I stopped doing it for 2 weeks. And I was like, why do I have all this like kind of anxiety? And like, I feel like something's going on. And it's like, well, what's going on? What have I done? What did I change? And it's like, oh, you stopped cold plunging. Guess what? It's something that works for you. So that's what I would recommend with the nootropics is I think there's a clear difference with or without them, right? So it's worth trying it.
Yeah, and also let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum. If you're crushing it, you don't need it. Like if I like to think about all this biohacking stuff. Like it's so easy to have what's his name, like a Gary Brecka of the world, tell you to try this thing that it's so life changing. But if you don't have that problem, you don't have to try that thing, right? Like if you don't have energy level problems or you don't have focus problems, you don't need this. So like we're in this information age where everything's being thrown at you and everything is the cure for everything that's being thrown out. Like try the things, like identify what's the problem that bothers you the most. And then from there you can go. The other thing I wanted to mention, like on the other end of the spectrum, is like I do utilize nicotine and caffeine a lot too. I'm not going to pretend that I don't. I'm in a place where I'm building and I like just want maximum output. So I will utilize like some Zins and a decent amount of caffeine on a daily basis as well, just because like there's no time for rest. Like you said, I have a wife, I have a toddler, house, whatever, all this stuff. Like I need to be able to get as much done as I possibly can on a daily basis. So I definitely leverage those.
But to your point, to the point that you made though, with like a Gary Brecka, right? Like there's kind of levels to that whole thing. Like I think Brecka, I'm not 1000% convinced on the guy. I think it's a lot of really, really good marketing. But if you wanted to do the full Gary Brecka routine, it would cost you, I mean, probably $30,000 or more, right? To have all those things in place. I think the cool thing about nootropics, and I mean, to compare it to Brecka, right? If you just start doing breath work on a daily basis, you're going to notice a difference. For nootropics, it's a low cost, barrier to entry. Like try it for $50 and see if it works. If you lose $50 and it does nothing for you, then whatever, you lost $50. So that's the only big difference I think that's interesting with nootropics. It's a nice way to kind of dip your toes into the world of performing at a higher level.
I agree. And then like the other stuff that's really cheap and free basically is sunlight, sleep, diet, like the basics too. If you stack those together, like you already do all these things. Like you're great at this. I go up and down depending on how busy I am, but like that combination alone doesn't cost anything. It's just like a little bit more effort, a little bit more intentionality. And like you said, $50 to experiment with a nootropic, and all of a sudden you have double the energy that you had last week. It's a crazy experience.
Awesome. So now that you've started to see success in this, I mean, you've obviously invested a lot of time, energy, resources into developing a product that's now a profitable venture. So much so, like that your wife blessed you taking this jump when you have a 19-month-old kid. Like, hey, I'm going to quit my cushy, successful job to start a nootropics company. What is entrepreneurship, taught you about yourself? And like, do you feel like an imposter, or is this like something you were just naturally born for, you think?
Damn, that's a hard hitter. So I will definitely say that I think my disposition was more drawn towards this. I was a bad employee. And when I say by bad employee, I wasn't incompetent, right? I was very competent at sales, but I was really bad at like the other stuff, like documenting in Salesforce and like the check-ins and all that stuff. I was not good at that. I did not like, you know, the dynamics of like a salesperson because I was a sales engineer, being able to dictate my schedule, like little stuff like that was like really, really, it grinded on me. So what's interesting is that working for myself, the stress in terms of like what we would call eustress, like the good stress, is up here now, right? Like my daily stress level is higher in terms of like needing to get things done. But my like anxious stress, the bad one, is down here now, which was a very interesting change for me. I think it was just because like my friction came from other people projecting their needs of the job onto me. Like if I don't do this, then they can't do this, then their boss gets mad at them, et cetera. You know how it goes in like any type of corporate structure.
And that put a lot of pressure on you?
I felt that more than I felt the actual pressure to do the job.
All right. So I'm just going to tell you, man, I gave you a hard hitting question, but I think you gave an A+ answer right there. Like, I think that's perfect, right? Because that really, truly, for me, that shows the evolution of TJ from being in a spot. And I was just on a podcast the other day. People could check it out on YouTube with the Haas Media Boys, right? I think the key to life is finding something that you like, being who you are, and getting paid handsomely for it. That's the secret sauce right there. And that's what you found in this. So I will say congratulations.
I appreciate that. And then the other that's very kind of you. And the other aspect of it that I will say is that I think that building a business is like a personal development exercise disguised as chasing money. Right? Like yes, there is a lot of money on the other end of a successful venture, but like I don't think there's any path faster towards self-actualization than like taking an idea in your head and getting it made out in the world and then like having good feedback and iterating on it and this building process. It's been crazy growth, to be honest.
And the way I look at it too with your product, and again, I think people with really good and positive energy, like we both are, we attract, other people that are like this, right? Because we see things that kind of amplify ourselves. The cool thing about your product, and it's a cool thing that I get to do in my life, is like we genuinely get to help people, right? Like how many TJs are there in the world that are in that job right now? I always say it was like my last banking job. It was like I hated doing my TPS reports, right? Like I forget that's a movie. What's that a reference to? What movie is that?
Office Space.
Office Space, right? Like, did you do your TPS reports, TJ? It's like, no, I just sold $1 million deal here. I'm sorry, I didn't write a story about it in Salesforce. You want to hear a really funny story? I heard a CEO of a bank I may be familiar with actually read Salesforce reports on Saturday mornings. If you're like the CEO of like a $1 billion company, that's how you spend your Saturdays reading TPS reports? Come on, man. Like seriously?
Yeah,
It's too funny. Too funny.
I hate stuff like that. We can go on a tangent about that.
We could definitely go on a tangent.
The last thing, Mike, that you asked at that question you asked was 3 parts. The last part was about imposter syndrome. 100%. Still feel it every day. No matter how big the monthly revenue goes, I still sometimes am like, I'm doing this, like this is me. Because I think also the thing that I pride myself on the most of everything is self-awareness and being like, I know exactly where I stand in the world. I know how many way bigger fish there are, right? I know that I've only been doing this 2 years. So yes, I did something cool and rare where I was able to escape corporate and build a business and get investment and do the things. But I'm not like ultra high net worth yet, right? Like I'm building something that's scaling. So it's like a very weird in between. We talked about Hormozy. Hormozy calls it like the lonely middle. Like I'm in that weird lonely middle where like my friends, I love them to death, but like they don't get what I'm doing. And then like my friends that are advisors that are doing this, that their brands do multiple millions a month. I don't do that yet. I'm not at their level yet. So I'm in this like weird in between where I'm scaling, I'm doing the thing, but I'm still kind of regulating and understanding where I fall in all of it.
But I think the worst thing about imposter syndrome, though, is if it actually kind of throttles your progression. And I can just tell you from an outside resource, and full disclosure, so the listeners know this. TJ and I literally met last week. I had an opening spot to record the podcast, and I go, I got to get this guy on the show right away because I think it's an important conversation. When I tell you, TJ, I would have thought if you would have told me that you launched this company in 2010 and you're doing, 3 billion a year, I would have believed you because the way that you present yourself, the way that you talk about these things, you're knowledgeable, you're excited about it. I would not think if you told me that you were driving a Ferrari and you were making a couple billion a year, I would totally have believed you just to be fully transparent with you. And I think the way that you present yourself online through social, you're very confident. So you don't come off as like you think you're an imposter.
Well, I appreciate that. I think it's a lot of practice, but
So let me jump into something here because, obviously, becoming a father, 19 months ago kind of, changes the game, right? Like my daughter is going to be 6 in September, and it's been such a motivational factor for me. Number one, to keep in shape and to be successful, right? Because I have someone dependent on me. I feel like when you get married, like, you get married to somebody that's been with you through the good and the bad. And if you took a big gamble on, starting a company or whatever, they would work with you. They would work a second job. Like they would figure it out. But like when you got a kid on the line, man, like that's a different game. Ultimately, I think the key word to entrepreneurship is legacy at the end of the day. If you could, paint a picture for 10 years from now, 20, 30 years from now, how would you like to leave a legacy, based on what you're doing with this company?
it's a really good question. So I'm not going to ever deny that I am in the pursuit of making a lot of money, right? Like I feel like founders that say that, like you're being disingenuous. Like, yes, I want to build a great product, but I also want to be rich if we're being honest, right? And not because I want Ferraris and Gucci and Rolex. Yes, I will probably have a Ferrari and a Rolex at some point. But the main thing for me, like I grew up with a single mom, and with that comes having to grow up fast, like fix things in the house, whatever. I don't want my son to experience that. I don't, and I don't know if that, you always fight the balance in your head. I'm sure you do as a father as well. Like you want to make them tough, but you also want to give them a better life. Like I'm like, we'll worry about the toughness with like sports or something. Like I don't want that struggle. And I want to retire my mom. I want to retire my in-laws. I want them to be able to spend more time with their grandkids. That my son grows up in like a abundance, loving space. And then the other thing, talk about legacy directly. I really, really, really want to make sure that he understands that there is a different way than the narrative that we're pitched all the time. That like you just go to college, get a good job, and then you like go for 40 years. Like there's a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really, really powerful. So like for me personally, like with my wife, the one gift that I wanted to be able to give her was the gift of choice, meaning, hey, we're going to have a child right now. We make the decision to have a child. If you don't want to work anymore and be a mom, I want you to be able to have that choice, right? So when it comes to children, you growing up with a single mom, I didn't grow up in a situation where I had one parent, right? But I would never want my daughter to say, I really feel drawn to being an artist. Like I really want to paint and I want to, and then have to be able to say, well, Charlie, sounds really cool, but unfortunately, painters can't live in New Jersey because they cannot afford our taxes, our real estate taxes, right? So I want to be able. So it's what I've given to my wife, what I'm giving to my daughter, what I hope to go on for my, for generations to come is I just want them to have the power of choice, right? And it's like we like nice things. There's nothing wrong with liking nice things, Rolexes, Ferraris, etc. But I just want to be able to create choice. And choice is, do I want to do this anymore? No, I don't want to do it anymore. Okay, then I don't have to do it anymore because everything's okay. I think we're in alignment with that for sure.
100%. Yeah, man. It's the enabling of whatever life you want to pursue. Because like I'm sure you feel the same way. I'm someone who does not deny the existence of talent and how deep that runs, right? Like I could never have been a basketball player, and I could never have been a lawyer because I can't read that much, and I'm 5'7", right? Like those are the things I accept. My talent happens to be just in yapping and like understanding marketing and those kind of things, and that's why I do. If my son shows a talent for a sport or an artistry, or he can sing or whatever, like you said, you want to be able to foster that. I want to get you a coach. I want you to try and see how far you can take that, as opposed to like, nope, you got to work at Starbucks like you did, right? Or like, you got to work at a summer camp. You got to deliver food. Like, if we can foster that, I would love to. So yeah, that's the same. We're aligned, 100%.
Definitely aligned. The other thing though that I kind of came to a conclusion the other day, and I'd love to hear your kind of take on it. I've done a lot of crazy things in my life, right? From I played in a rock band. I did all kinds of stuff. And now there's stuff in my life that I want to do that provides me joy. But with growing my own business and doing all the things, like I don't have the time to do it. Like I really want to take singing lessons. I know it sounds stupid, right? But I just want to be able to take an acoustic guitar and be able to be just a human jukebox just for fun, right? But I don't have the time to do it. And the sick thing about the world that we live in now is that I have to work till I'm 65 years old and hope and pray that I have that little bit of money to be able to do the things then that I wanted to do when I was 43 years old. That sucks, right? Like, how do we get this so that if TJ wants to learn how to skateboard, because he always wanted to skateboard, how can he go get lessons on how to skateboard and do that, or whatever it is that you have, right? That's the thing that really motivates me more than anything, because I don't want to have to wait till I'm 65 to be able to do the shit I want to do now.
At the end of the day, it gets boiled down to nothing is more valuable than health and time, and money helps with both of those. Oh, balloons, nice, great. Nothing enables those two things more than money, right? So it's like you're doing this pursuit because you want to enable better health and more time to do the things that we're talking about. Now, I always like to say, like, there is nothing wrong with working, especially if you like your job and do it. Like, we all work. Everyone works. Like you were talking about at the beginning, I probably work 12 hours a day at a minimum. And because even if I'm not sitting at my computer, I'm on my phone, I'm checking dashboards, I'm responding to emails, like whatever. But with money comes the ability to choose your time. And if you want to take singing lessons, you can do that with an acoustic guitar. Funny enough, my brother is in his residency he's a doctor. He's doing that. Like he takes singing lessons and like he goes and does like little dive bar gigs right now, but he had the same aspirations you do. And he's actively doing that. It's very interesting.
Funny, man. It's funny. So I have my kind of, and I know you probably know all this stuff because of, business operations, but I have like my 10-year vision, that I'm working towards every day. And I'm not going to read it because it's, we'll leave that for another episode. But the last part of my vision says, and I only work for the love of the game, not to earn money, not for anything else, but because I like to work. Right. So like, that's the real goal. We're kind of getting close on time here. So just a couple quick, kind of firepower questions for you. So like, how do you, outside of the use of nootropics and stuff, what are some, daily habits and rituals that you kind of focus on doing daily to keep yourself sharp and everything like that?
First and foremost, I am a big advocate for blocking blue light. I know it's like kind of cliche, but I have these go on at 9 o'clock. My phone, I have, you can, if anyone's watching this, you can Google like how to set your phone to red in the accessibility settings. So my iPad and my phone go on red mode. I have flux on my computer, so no blue light into the eyes after 9 o'clock. That leads into the iPad has red on it because I also read fiction for 20 to 30 minutes before bed every night. For me, the only way that I can turn off my brain completely and transition from thinking about a million problems to sleep. But after those 20 minutes, like I'm literally like in my bed falling asleep it has to be fiction for me, because if I read nonfiction business books, I start thinking about business. Whereas like when it's just like a random fiction book, it's just low stress. So those two things are like super important. I also have some it's gotten better, but I have some sleep apnea. So I wear a nose strip. The CPAP did not work for me, but just no food close to bed. I don't drink water close to bed. And then making sure just like sleep in general is like really, really important, especially with a toddler that's yelling dad at 6:30 every morning.
Yes. Well, I'll tell you, when they get to be 5.5, 6 years old, they yell dad in the middle of the night because they have a nightmare. And then you have to go in at 2 o'clock and hold their hand. And which is going to be a challenge.
Yeah. And then the other thing that's really important too, and this is like, I don't know, this is maybe a little bit of a weird one, but any drive that is under a half hour, I don't listen to music or podcasts or anything. I do it in complete silence because it's like the only time that I get like a complete shut off of my brain. And when I walk my dog every day, I don't listen to headphones or anything because those are the two times that I'm able to like calm it all down. And most like the big breakthroughs for the business or like in my life or whatever decisions I've made is from doing one of those two things. And then like something comes to me, I write it down in my notes and keep that calm. So finding any type of quiet time throughout your day.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good. One thing I would tell you that I've been doing lately, maybe you can use this for yourself, but at the end of the day, and then especially at the end of the week, I kind of do a data dump of my brain onto a sheet of paper and then structure my next week, right? So that I can go into the weekend in full dad and husband mode and not be milling around on other things. That's been very helpful to me. So I got like two more questions for you. And then I also want you to be able to share how people can support Ramp Health, support you, follow you, et cetera. But is there one piece of advice that you'd give to someone who's working a full-time job, they're doing the thing, but they have this pull to do something, on their own? What advice would you give to them to kind of start exploring that?
Well, the easiest is like start, right? But if we're being like tactical, we live in a time where Chat GPT can do like everything for you. If you want to like actually get started, just take a half hour tonight or an hour tonight when everyone's asleep in your house and it's calm and it's quiet, when you'd normally be scrolling or watching Netflix or whatever. And just like go through an exercise of an idea you have. What would it look like to get it manufactured? How much money do you think it would start to cost, et cetera? Just to start like actually taking action and grinding the gears. Because from my experience, Mike, I've actually consulted over 50 e-com brands that are started now. I've helped in that process just because of my social media. Everyone gets hung up on the logistics. Like, how do I get this made? How do I do that? Marketing is 90%. All that other stuff is 10%. So if you can bang that out in one night of a half hour and just like work through it, like, okay, this is all I need to do to like actually get this started. I think that would be a huge step forward for a lot of people and overcoming that hurdle with knowledge and taking action right there.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So how can listeners support you and your work? The website is www.ramphealth.co, just the way it sounds, RAMP health.co. Best place to follow you is on X, you said?
On X, yeah. We can put it in the show notes. It's at Thomas_Salamis_, but that's where I'm at all day. And then on Instagram, we're ramp.health as well. At ramp.
Cool. And then just Arenza. Can you just give us a quick one on Arenza, just so we know what that product is?
Sure. So as a company, Arenza, we are looking for harm reduction, right? So the whole thesis for this company is that everybody is doing things in their life and we're not your mother to tell you what you can and can't do. If you want to drink, if you want to do this, if you want to do that, that's fine. Do your thing. We want to offer a way to make it healthier. So our first product that we launched is called 3Plenic, and it is for nicotine users. Made it for myself. It's a daily multivitamin that, like, when you use nicotine, your metabolism revs up. It burns more B vitamins, more zinc, more magnesium, etc. This is just a daily multi that puts all that back in, and it should help fight some of the fatigue and other symptoms that you'll get from using a lot of nicotine.
Interesting. Very cool. And then I got the $1 million question I ask every guest I have on here, and I love to get their answer. So when you look back on your journey, whether it be personally or professionally, what's the one moment that felt really small at the time, but ended up changing everything for you?
June 2022, it was before I had a kid. I was on a family vacation sitting on the beach, and I get a little antsy on the beach. So I'm not I'm not someone who can like lay in the sun for 3 hours. I need to like be doing something or whatever. And I made a decision right there that I was going to start tweeting. I was like, I'm going to start making content. So like from that day, I tweeted 5 to 10 times a day for the last like 3 years plus. Twitter has connected me with my investor, with my business partners, with my advisors. It's how I launched my brand. It's how I've met all kinds of people in the space. And I know that sounds crazy, but there's no, like, in your local world, you're never going to be able to like access people in LA and Miami and stuff. But putting your stuff out there. And then with that process, I built my company in public, as people say. Like, I started from the ground talking about all the things that I was going through as I've grown the company. That was the most life-changing thing I've ever done. And at the time, it's just a tweet, right? I just made a fresh Twitter account and like had a couple tweets, and here we are, almost 15,000 followers, and all the connections I've made are all from that moment.
And I think it's just the beginning for you, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So listen, it has been an honor and a pleasure getting to know you. I think there's lots of big things ahead here, but thank you so much for joining us on the show today. TJ Bongiorno from Ramp Health.
Thank you for having me. This was awesome. I really appreciate it.
All right, my man. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to everybody soon.